Hello, everybody there in Facebook land and YouTube. This is Doug Fowler from Pulaski Talks. Welcome aboard to the show and the crazy train going on tonight. Tonight we got Stacy Ball's back in the office. I think this is show number 5, something like that.
That's fine.
He's taking up residency here tonight with us. We're going to answer some questions back and forth, talk about the campaign update. But first and foremost, shout out to our sponsors, Mark Prue and the Prue Law Office, our gold sponsor. Been with us since the beginning. He owes us we owe him a lot of world thanks. So thank you so much. Mark, all our silver sponsors. Stacy's a sponsor. Nick and Brian, thank you so much. And we got 2 new sponsors. Let me get my notes. Charles Bassett, yes, thank you so much, sir, for your sponsorship of the show. And Andy Helms, they were in here last night. If you didn't watch the show, you missed a great show. We had a great discussion that was edifying for me, especially learning how county government works. I encourage everybody to go out to that and watch that show and listen to the experts talk about the work that people do for our county down there on those county roads and bridges. So before we go any further, let me change over to, there we go. This is why I need my executive producer that's not a feline. There I am up in the corner. You know, give me a second. There we are. There's Stacy Ball right there, rock and roll. We do have a guest in the office, but he'll remain nameless. So, Stacy, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Doug. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for showing up again. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I want to talk, first of all, I didn't know you coached football.
I do. I coach 8th grade middle school football for Waynesville.
Oh, really?
I do.
How many kids you got?
We had 40. We had 40 today for our first summer practice.
Really? And one team?
One team, and then we have I guess about 20 some for 7th grade show up.
Wow, that's a lot of kids. I can't.
And these are volunteer practices. So,
really?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, we encourage them to come, but once school starts, that's when the mandatory practice.
Well, let's give them a shout out to those kids, and thank you, Stacy, for coaching those kids. I know they'll treasure it for the rest of their lives. Now, we do have the phone lines open at the bottom. If you do have a question for Stacy, you would like to ask him. But first and foremost, we have a campaign going on. How do you feel the campaign's going on so far? I bet you've met so many people. Shake so many hands.
It's been a great experience so far. I mean, just getting able to talk to people and going door to door, which, I've talked to hundreds of people across this county. I wish I could hit every one of them, but
sure.
521 square miles in this county. There's a lot of people here, but I guess about 58,000 or so.
That's a lot of people.
But I try and get out, and I hear all kinds of, I hear things that they like, things they don't like. And it's all a learning experience, and just the different people that I get to meet, regardless of the outcome. I mean, I've met a lot of great people in this county that love living here, being here, and that's why I'm running for sheriff. Because I want to make sure that I keep their quality of living where it should be.
Awesome.
Or get it to where it should be.
That's right. Thank you so much. Bill Thompson just chimed in with a question. He had a list of questions, but I'm at the doctor right now. So, Mr. Thompson, we should be on the air for at least another 45 minutes or so. Hopefully, you can get back and ask the questions. So, to get with my questions, you've probably answered this question on so many formats and platforms, but we just got to reiterate, it's for the voters out there watching, those abroad and at home. What unique experiences from your military and law enforcement background do you believe give you the edge over your opponents? It's coming down to that. We got our round table this morning, and it's going to be a matter of resume check, lining everybody up and eye to eye, and say, pick the best candidate that I can, an informed decision. What brings you to the level above the other 3?
Doug, I think the biggest thing is the biggest thing off the bat is my military experience, my leadership experience. I've led hundreds of soldiers. Hundreds of people in the military. I've taken care of them. I've counseled them. I've mentored them. I've trained them. And that goes along with their families, too. It's not just the soldiers. With any organization you lead, their families are involved as well.
Sure.
So, I haven't led just a few. I've led hundreds.
Right.
In combat, in peacetime. That I think it does give me an edge. I mean, when you take in the whole totality of the numbers of people that I've led and trained and mentored and counseled and tried to leave a lasting impression in their minds of me, because I truly care about it. Everybody that's under my command.
Right.
And I soldiers. I mean, I hear soldiers all the time, especially when they, your soldiers I had was a private, and now they're a sergeant major, and they hit you up on Facebook or give you a call and say, hey, what's going on now? I'm a sergeant major now. Oh my, hey, this guy was a private.
I know exactly how that feels. Just from my own experience, I was at 14th Common Engineer Battalion at Fort Lewis, and I had a guy in my squad, and I took care of him, led him, mentored him. I was in E6, and I didn't retire, but next thing you know, he shows up at Fort Leonard with his E8P, and he gave me a shout out, and I just almost tears.
Yeah,
right. When you make that kind of impact on somebody's life. That resonates for years.
With that, because I don't want to leave, because I haven't talked enough about my civilian experiences.
Sure.
Well, I mean, I military is my background,
right?
But as a program manager for the TED program and for the Department of the Army, brand new program that started up that I drank from the fire hose to get this thing up and running, to give the infantry the dog capability for explosives.
Okay.
So I would go to these units, talk to generals, talk to battalion and brigade commanders about getting their soldiers out of their unit, trained up while they're heading to combat. I'm training their dog handlers. Well, I'm not training them personally, but I'm managing the program. That's the contractors training them. Going out to Yuma, Arizona. Probably one of the hottest places in the country that we can simulate the desert.
That's not even a funny place to talk about.
No, it's not. It is hot. But with that, I mean, being a program manager and dealing with the budgets and dealing with budgets in the military, I mean, I have that experience. That experience with overseeing the budgets, helping my commander with the budgets. But along with that civilian experience working for the Department of the Army is all the leadership courses I took while I was a DA civilian.
Right.
Every leadership course I could, and I've got them I got a list on my website.
Right. I've seen it.
There's a lot of courses, and any type of course that I felt can enhance me in my career, enhance my capabilities as a leader, enhance my capabilities as a person. I was all over them.
I can empathize with exactly kind of the pattern I followed too. I say, if you're not going to go, I'll go.
Right.
I had an opportunity to go PLD or BNOC in Germany as an E4. Nobody else wanted to go. I'll go.
Yeah.
I just 6 months from PLDC. I'll go.
Right.
And I had a great time.
You take advantage of every opportunity you can possibly take advantage of. So.
And they don't come. They're sometimes far and few between. Mr. Thompson, sorry, if you want to call in, the number's at the bottom of the screen. It's 573-408-0339 if you want to call in, or you just want to wait until later, or you can put it in the comments there. It's up to you. Happy to hear from you. Next question I got. Leadership's an evolving thing with leaders, at least in my experience in talking with other leaders and stuff. About leadership. And how do you feel from the military to your civilian job as a program manager to working in law enforcement? Has your leadership style or styles evolved to where you think that's very beneficial to the job as sheriff?
I think probably the biggest thing is empathy.
Yeah.
In the military, you have an empathetic style of leadership, but it's different in the military than it is in the civilian world, because it's easy to put yourself in the shoes of your soldiers, because you've been there. But when you're out here talking to the people in the county with the issues and concerns that they have, you have a lot more empathy, because this is my county as well. I mean, I live here, and to hear some of the things that they want to see fixed and changed. I mean, it's like, I can empathize, because I feel that same way. I mean, I want to. No, we're not going to have a perfect county. I mean, no county is perfect. No place that you live you're going to have crime. You're going to have drugs. You're going to. I mean, it's all over the place.
Right.
But being able to empathize with more directly with people, I think, is especially being a police officer, has changed my whole. But changed a lot of my leadership style, as far as what I've dealt with, as a civilian.
Sure.
But man, it's if you can't put yourself in their shoes, I mean, you can't relate.
Right.
And no, I can't relate with it. Like, it's like talking with you get somebody that's they pulled over for a little bit of dope.
Right.
A little bit of meth or something like that, and you're trying to talk to them and the first thing they usually tell you, well, why do you care? You think I'm a piece of crap?
Right.
They use
Right.
another word. And I tell you, I didn't say that.
Right.
When it comes to that, I start looking at how, if you're going to help me, how can I help you? And I can help you with getting you into some place like Core,
Sure.
down in Branson, out of the area, away from your friends, away from the lifestyle you're living, where they're going to give you a job, they're going to give you a bed, they're going to give you a bank account, you're going to earn money. And it's not, and I'm talking about narcotics here, but it's not just about using somebody and throwing them to the wolves.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking about how can I help them further.
Right.
I don't have, the last person I sent to Core, I paid for his bed.
Really?
$360 to get him a bed.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on a roll.
Right.
Unfortunately, they earn passes and they're able to come back, and things didn't work out so good. But
the grip of that stuff is just incredible.
Yeah. So that narcotics piece of my life really deeply, because like I've told you before, my father died of a drug overdose.
Right.
One of the main reasons I wanted to get narcotics and never thought I would, never thought I'd be able to, pass myself off as, somebody that's addicted to a drug or narcotic,
right.
and be able to buy it from them. But BS is part of that game. And I mean, that's, it helped me out.
I can't even, my experiences from cops and watching The Wire on HBO. So, I can't even fathom that.
Yeah. That's a lot of, you bring that up, and I know we're kind of getting off subject here, but
we got all night.
We want the police shows that you see online, like the 48 hours and the CSI, and where they're solving these cases, and before the show's over. I mean, that just does not happen in the real world.
There's not enough police officers in the state.
And you see the crime labs, and they're doing DNA, and they're cutting a little swab off. Yeah, it happened.
And they got the results right away.
And shaking a little vial, putting it in a little spinner. I mean, yeah, it doesn't happen like that. Sometimes I wish we could get away from some of those shows, because I don't have an answer yet, but it takes time to get that answer. And
plus, it adds to the pressure, what the expectations, what the voters, the residents of Pulaski County, or any county, has upon the law enforcement of people.
Right.
They have these false assumptions that it's like the TV, and it's not.
Yeah.
It takes, and everybody has rights. We have our rights. Now, going back to the campaign, you met hundreds of people, if not thousands. You've been all over the county. If there is one thing that's resonated so far with the population of Pulaski County that needs to be addressed, what is it? The most popular one,
Well, I'm not going to beat nobody up, but probably the biggest is the transparency.
Right.
The transparency and the budget. Those are the two biggest things.
No, I was talking with the populace.
Oh,
what the problems are. I think is it drugs? I mean, is that the worst?
Yeah,
the worst?
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
No, the drugs and the thieves.
Right.
Drugs and the thieves. I mean, those are the two. They've always been the two biggest things, I think, and also with the sexual exploitation of all three of them run together: drugs, the thieves, and the sexual exploitation of because it has hit our county.
Right.
And we have saw some cases with that, but it's an investigation that you just can't kick in somebody's door because somebody said.
Right.
It takes it takes surveillance, it takes investigate, it takes talking to people, it's talking to the right people.
You're building a case file, literally.
100%.
Yeah.
And I wish I could say I'm going to end drugs. I'm going to end the thieves. But I'm sure as hell going to go after every one of them.
Right.
And I'm going to put them in front of the judge, let the judge let them out, and I'm going right back after them. Yeah. I want the judge to get sick of seeing them after the 8th time. Hopefully they find their way in prison.
Now, I lost it. It derailed. I hate that when that happens.
Yeah.
I'll segue in back to what you did answer. And I got to agree with you. In my conversation with the two commissioners up there, transparency is a big issue. what if you was to take one action down the sheriff's department / sheriff's office or as sheriff? I hope that's good, Bill. He said something about is it department or sheriff's? I'm not sure the answer, but I would say sheriff's department.
Well, I will go with your question. I'll answer that
Yeah.
because that's something that
You know better than I would, but to increase or establish a sound level of transparency in the sheriff's department, what would be the first thing you do?
Well, the first thing, well, I've talked about my town hall meetings,
right?
But, on top of that, and I've talked about the website before. The website is a huge issue. When I've visited all kinds of websites from other sheriffs, from other police departments, and there's so much information that we could put on there to help the people, help to find out how to get on the roster, the check roster for their house if they go on vacation. Filing online reports, getting information countywide that it doesn't have to necessarily be sheriff specific, but specifics on we were talking earlier, like road closures and
right.
Flood zones, things that when it's raining out and getting the word out, because Facebook is a great tool, great means of communication. Everybody's on it. But not, there's some people that don't have Facebook and they go to the website and they find that information.
And I brought that up last night to the commissioners. I said, you're having to find every office down in that building and beyond has their own Facebook page, and probably nearing 50. And for me to go and try to find a nitpick and hoping I see the notification from Andy Helms or Charles Bassett about a road closure on XYZ, that's unrealistic and unsustainable. And I agree with you 100%. It needs to be a solid sounding board or location where the populace can find out what's going on.
Yep. And it should also mesh with like our emergency management.
Yes.
There should be a link to emergency management. There should be links to MoDOT. There should be links to Highway Patrol. There should be links on how you can volunteer. Like if they want to volunteer in the application to volunteer, download the application. If they want to do a ride along, do an application to do a ride along and submit it right there on the website. It comes to the dispatch, and then the dispatch would give it to me.
Right.
Because, from that, got to do a background check and things like that and make sure that.
Hold on, I got to give a shout out. Amen to the Go Hawks, Fuzzy G182. Yes, you got to answer that quick. Otherwise, I got to get up and genuflect.
What's that?
He said Go Hawks. Fuzzy G. Can't see it up there. We got too many comments, but got to give at it.
Go Buckeyes.
Show's over, folks. Have a great night. I'll let you answer Mr. Thompson. And then Rossi Ross, you say it's a office. I'll leave it to the experts. I don't know the particulars, but it makes sense if it's an elected official, it's an office.
Yeah, the sheriff is the office of the sheriff.
It's not a department.
It's not a department because we don't report to departments.
Right.
Nobody reports. It's the office of the sheriff. It's been a sheriff's. I mean, even in Phelps County is a sheriff's department.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just I've been trying to get away from sheriff's department and say sheriff's office because the sheriff is an elected official, and it is the office of the sheriff.
And I was edified again last night by the two commissioners that they work with the sheriff as far as the budget goes and stuff like that. But the sheriff does not work for them; he works for the people.
That's correct.
Yeah. So I think that's. I hate to say it again, but if you haven't watched, these guys gave a great education lesson to me last night. Andy Helms and Charles Bassett on the show last night, so I invite everybody to go back and see that again. Well, you're welcome, Mr. Thompson. Thank you so much for chiming in and also your questions. All right, going back to the Q&A session. In community engagement and policing differ. Let me get back. How does your approach to community engagement and policing differ from the other competitors? What sets you apart?
Well, I think right now, just with getting out into the community and meeting everybody, going door to door and talking, knocking on doors and talking to people, that's what the sheriff has to do. To engage with the community and find out what's going on and being approachable,
right?
And being just being able to listen to what their needs and concerns. because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody to listen. And if you're not going to listen to them or think you always have the right answer, then you're going to go nowhere.
I agree.
And that's the other thing that being with this campaign and meeting so many people is just being able to open up more and try and identify with each individual what their concerns are, what's going, because it's not always bad. I don't hear all bad things. I hear good things too. And getting the deputies to do that same thing, not being afraid. Doug's out there cutting his grass. Hey, stop by and say, hey, Doug, hey, sir, I'm Deputy Ball. I'm just in the area. Any issues, concerns? Anything going on that I need to know about.
That's pull.
Yeah.
Actually, and that's a useful technique, pulling the information out rather than waiting on somebody to push it.
And I don't work with, I did my own thing in narcotics.
Right.
And being able to pull that information is huge because if not, I mean, you're just going to talk in circles. And
it goes back to that transparency where the resident and the populace needs to trust the sheriff and the deputies to do the right thing with the information being given. Otherwise, nothing.
Right.
Seals right up. We've got a question from Mr. Thompson. 2 deputies working a shift every day. Detectives and local off-duty deputies on call depending on emergencies. Do you plan on upping that number? And if so, how long do you think it'll take looking at the current budget?
Well, the biggest thing that I can do that won't affect the budget is try and build that reserve force back up. Yeah. When I was the reserve for several years for Pulaski County, we had a robust reserve force. And we no longer have that.
Really?
We have officers that want to come and work for Pulaski County, that want to be a reserve. They have their daytime job.
Right.
And that's going to be a big priority for me is to building that reserve force up, because with that reserve force, I might be able to give somebody an extra day off.
Right.
Or we have, life happens. We have medical emergencies, things like that to go on, instead of right now calling somebody in after a 12-hour shift 4 hours later.
Yeah.
To work. I mean, that doesn't work for me, and that's where if that were to happen, guess what? Sheriff Ball will be on the road.
Yeah.
My lieutenants will be on the road. My sergeants will be on the road. Somebody's going to be on the road to cover that because I'm not going to call somebody in after 4 or 5 hours of sleep. I used to do that as a reserve. The lieutenant at the time, Legan, he would call me up and say, hey, something happened, or hey, I need to give this guy a day off. Can you come and work? Absolutely.
Right.
But with the reserve force, the biggest thing is the reserves that I pull in. They have to want to be able to work and do cases as well.
Right.
The county, those deputies are swamped with cases.
Right.
Swamped with just trying to catch up. So if a reserve can take a couple of cases, and that's their job. That's why they're reserved. They're not just there to ride around and and turn their lights on and stuff like that. I mean, and some people that I've talked to that want to come in reserve, I think I'll get a pretty good reserve force built up.
Oh, that's awesome.
And those that want to work reserve, take your share of cases. If you're out there and don't be afraid to take that case.
Right.
I know you got your full-time job. I did all kinds of cases when I reserved. I worked for the government and took a case. Number one, because I'm learning still.
Sure.
So I mean, and to be at the casework and Crime Star, the system we use, it's not that difficult to navigate. Mm-hmm. Now, NIBRS that the FBI threw at us, that's a little tricky sometimes. But it's just a reporting system that we use for the FBI.
Right.
But it's mandatory. So that's a little bit of a pain in the butt when you got 3 or 4 suspects or stuff like that. But building that reserve force, and I'm not even looking at the budget on that, except for having the vehicles available for them to use or doubling up a patrol.
Maybe go into how the reserve system works. What is that? They got to work so many hours.
12 hours a month.
12 hours a month.
Yes, and it doesn't have to be all one shift. It could be they could come in and work a couple hours and then come in, next weekend or a couple days later work a couple hours, or but 12 hours a month. And it goes into a log so that the sheriff is supposed to track that to make sure, because if they're not doing their quoted hours, then they lose their commission.
Okay.
But they're like, for me, for instance, I worked at the school. I did all kinds of sporting activities after school, after hours, coach football, things like that. So, like for Phelps County, I would go in and I do all my hours during the summer. And it's way more than what my and I did that same thing for Pulaski County.
Got a question here from Fuzzy G182. I don't know who you are. We're going to find out, but you can't see it because it's on YouTube.
Oh,
I'll have to read it
YouTube.
to you. Yeah, we're broadcasting live, multi-platform. We're talking actually on Twitter and Instagram too. So we need more people that care and pay attention to what's going on in the world. Paying attention to the local level is a staple of trustworthy system and government. Okay, here's another question. Keep up the great work and keep fighting for us in America. I'd like to shout out to you, awesome. All right, Mr. Brashear. In the spirit of transparency, I understand you had a commission in Phelps County with the Sheriff's Department until 2022. I also know you're not on their post roster for 3 months ago, but you are now. When were you able to obtain the new commission?
Well, what had happened in Sheriff Kern, the Phelps County Sheriff, I mean, the administrative assistant scrubbed the roster. I fell off the roster for whatever reason. Nobody knew. I guess Brashear asked around and found out I wasn't. And I went to Sheriff Kern, and Sheriff Kern got me back on the post roster. So it didn't affect any of my kids. It didn't affect anything I did for Phelps County, but I never not had a commission from Phelps County.
That would be that'd be the main thing I would worry about is if the case is just because of a snafu paperwork snafu.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I had a meeting with Sheriff Kern yesterday, but I'm just to calm them down. I'm going to get a letter from Sheriff Kern and explaining that because Sheriff Kern is not a liar.
Oh yeah. Well, it goes back to transparency too, So thank you so much for that. Training and qualifications. You talked about that, and you got the parchment. You got lots of parchment. What training and qualifications do you possess that you believe are unmatched by the other candidates, matched or superior than the other candidates?
Well, I go back to leadership. It's daggone 18 years in the military as a leader. From team leader, squad leader, I've been an SRT team leader, which is SWAT team. I've been a sniper team leader, platoon sergeant, drill sergeant. Been to numerous military schools, from air assault to rappel master to ANOC, BNOC, I can't even count how many daggone schools, but it's those qualifications. Reverting back to the military, regardless, I mean, all that stuff, all that experience, you don't lose your ability to lead. You don't lose. It's not like with your weapons where if you don't qualify in your weapons, you're going to lose that, or that it's going to deteriorate.
Right.
Because even with that, I've never been a leader in. I was a detective in the sheriff's office for the task force, which I was a corporal. But with that leadership, I worked by myself, and I was I led myself.
Right.
It's like I said before, that position right there alone, you can, if you're not doing your job, it's going to be found out.
Right.
If you're not going out there finding the people that you need to find and finding the case you need to find, that you're going to get replaced.
What's the textbook definition of leadership? You remember? 22-100.
Oh, it's
purpose, direction, motivation.
Yeah, but purpose, direction, motivation.
There you go.
But that's the forefront of any leader should be purpose, direction, and motivation. Because if you can't give them a purpose,
they're not going to do anything.
And you can't give them the direction you want them to go, and you got to motivate.
Yeah.
You got to motivate. Motivation is I can motivate. But with that intent, hey, here's what I want done. Here's how we're going to do it, and here's what I expect from you.
Right.
And it's not. It should be nothing that if I can't do it, then I'm not going to ask them to do it.
Goes right back to transparency with the deputies and the officials or the staff down there at the sheriff's office. Got another question for Mr. Thompson. So Trump announced Vance. Who's your pick for chief deputy since the spot's been vacant for well over a year? Are you willing to disclose that, or do you have one in mind? Or
I've talked to a few folks. Okay. I'm not willing to disclose that now until after I dig in a little further. But I have a couple people in mind.
And I'll let you read that. Can you read that? I can read it out loud. But if you're bringing an outsider, what is their qualifications? What you're considering promoting from within? Do you think that's a good idea with the current apparent lack of qualified leadership now?
Well, yeah, I personally, yes, there's nobody that for that position, at least from the inside. I would love to say there was, but again, I haven't been able to talk to anybody.
Sure.
I don't go down to the sheriff's office anymore. I don't spend no time down there. So, if the people that I've talked to have been with the sheriff's office before,
okay,
and that's all. I'm not going to get any further than that, but I haven't decided yet. But I think I want one. I want a chief deputy. But is it essential?
Right.
No, because that money can go to put another deputy on the road. It's more of a preference than whatnot. But
that's a lot of people to supervise one-on-one. Well, you got your lieutenants and your captains and such. I understand that, but
yep.
I'm not aware of any reason why it went away other than maybe budget cuts or. Doesn't matter.
I don't get into it.
I don't blame you. Crisis management. Now, I'm thinking of what's the agency? What's the emergency management? You take all that training and stuff like that for on post. FEMA, and the emergencies, and we've had plenty of them here. People died. And crisis management. Well, how do you plan to leverage your experience to handle emergencies more effective than your opponents in crisis management situations?
Well, the good thing for all of my opponents is we have a good emergency management director here in Pulaski County. I've talked to him several times. My background, I don't have a degree, but my background is emergency management. And the biggest thing with the people, you got to work with your emergency management team to be able to be effective in the community when that emergency happens. The sheriff can't do it all.
Right.
That emergency, and I've talked to our emergency management official that sitting down with them, especially like school shootings. Next year there's going to be a big one at one of the school districts, not here in Pulaski County, it's in another county, that I think will be very beneficial. So whoever the sheriff can attend that, because it's not going to be a cookie cutter, but it's a way forward. Because since I've been an SRO at the schools, I've always wondered why we haven't done some type of tabletop exercise, why we can't get all our departments together to hash out the hot spot, where the fire department's going to stage, where the ambulance, because especially when you're talking about our high school with one way in, one way out, and every parent is going to be wanting to get in there and get their kids, so it's going to be a total cluster, if something ever were to happen. So those are details that need to be worked out especially with that area right there.
And if I can caveat that with also not only the increased level of transparency within the office, but the networking or for lack of a better term, glad handing, who you're working with. You should know the sheriff. I put a $10 bill down that says most people don't even know who our sheriff is by face or look. I mean, and not to his fault, but and maybe it's a level of apathy. I don't know. But regarding the crisis management, working with your fellow department heads, so to speak, them know you, you know them, they know you pick up the phone, who you're talking to, rather than it's the first time you meet somebody when it's a crisis.
Right, and with memorandum of agreements all over the county and with other counties too. I mean, that's knowing who you can call, and if that emergency hasn't affected their county, that you can call on Phelps County, Marys County,
Right.
Camden County. And I've talked to all the sheriffs that are running, and the sheriff that obviously Sheriff Kern,
Right.
to start that networking and start that agreement as far as, hey, you guys are way further than I am in Pulaski County. So if further along rather of what you're going to inherit, what is going to be inherited here, especially with the jail. But we have to start opening our daggone doors and going out to these other counties and asking, hey, if you got training coming up, give me some
Right.
invites. If I got to pay for it, I got to pay for it. But working hand in hand with sharing intelligence,
Right.
with Camden County, our bordering counties, we don't work with our daggone counties,
Right.
the sheriffs, and that has got to change. If
Hey,
it doesn't change,
it's free. You can pick up the FaceTime. Hey, we have a team meeting.
it's well, conversation I've had, I'll just leave between me, but it's something that I'm definitely going to change. And I've, like I said, I've talked to several of the sheriffs that are running, and I've talked to like Sheriff Kern about about opening those doors and working together. And just because it's Phelps, it doesn't mean we're not a team. Just because it's Marys County, we're not a team. We are a team. We're law enforcement professionals, and we should be working together, because what I give them will enhance their community. What they give me will enhance my community, enhance my office as well as theirs. So
Right.
if I got some intel that's going across county, then I need to give them that intel that's up in their county. They can, and they investigate, and I would want that same feedback back here. Hey, we got a guy coming back and forth from Camden County to Pulaski County, and here's the description of the truck. Here's who he is. Whatever information, all the information I can get, just to share that, and put a bolo out to my deputies, detectives, so that we and our local police agencies as well.
Sure.
It doesn't stop there. It filters all the way down to working with St. Robert, Waynesville, Crocker, Richland, and Dixon. So
Right.
we all have to work together.
Now I'm going to segue. I'm not going to segue. I'm going to go. The train ride came back. It picked me up. If you were to make an assessment right now, would you say the sheriff's office is proactive or reactive?
It's reactive.
Reactive. What steps do you think you need to take, other than your assessment, of course, to change that from a reactive state? Understanding there are always variables, whether tornadoes, fires, emergency, crisis management, there are always variables. But to change the culture from reactive to proactive.
Probably the biggest thing is my cops program, my
Right.
civilians on patrol, getting that established, getting that up and running, and getting this, and knowing the not the chain of command, but knowing the communication piece as far as the information that I'm looking for, the information I need that would help out my deputies, help out the police departments. But my civilians on patrol program it's more or less a neighborhood watch on steroids. It's and I would love to be able to have a lake, my cops in Lakeway, my cops in Dixon, my cops in Waynesville and St. Rod. So that way, if something were to happen in one of those areas, because who knows, I'm not from here. I haven't hunted these lands. I haven't rode these lands on horses, 4x4s. The landowners in this county know their land better than anybody. So if we're out there hunting for somebody, looking for a lost baby, looking for a dementia patient, because we've been out there looking. We got a draw right down there on the other side of that. I know. Let's go down there and check. That's things that that information that we don't have.
Right.
But having them bring that information to me in a trusted way to know that I'm going to react on that is probably the biggest way we can turn ourselves proactive. But also the deputies getting out there and, like I said, talking to people and finding out information about anything suspicious going on, anything in the county that or in your area that we need to know about, or things going on, thieving and things like that. Because at the end of the day, we get that information, and I start building my pattern on my board, on my map, to find those hot spots, to find those trends, and that concentrate on some of those areas. And again, talking with our sheriff's office or talking with our local police departments too, with the sheriff's office, especially, hey, give me, can I get 2 patrols from you? And then share the wealth with them with a couple patrols for their county to help hit those hot spots, hit those high target areas, to get that intelligence, to get that information. And
it's like a fire map.
Yeah, I call it my battle map, my battle map. And that, the big, huge map of Pulaski County, so I can start getting those trends. But along with that, the transparency piece, hey, Pulaski County, here's what's going on in the Dixon area. At this, from the 1,000 block to the 10,000 block of whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We need to, we've had several incidents out here. You see something, you say something. See anything suspicious, suspicious people. This daggone plastic in my daggone mouth, it's killing me. But that's the stuff we need.
Right.
We need to be able to check it out.
Okay.
The problem is sometimes we get that information. By the time we get out there, there's, people are gone. But find it, get that report and keep an eye on that area.
Long pole in the tent. What is it?
Yeah.
What's your long pole in the tent for the sheriff's office? What's the one thing you have to protect at all costs? Keep that from falling down. Maybe it didn't make it. I always hear long pole in the tent. I mean, it's like the most valuable thing that's got to be protected at all costs inside of an organization. If it goes down, the whole tent falls down.
Well, for me, it's our integrity.
Right. Okay. That's awesome. Question from Mr. Thompson. So we have federal training installation in our backyard. Why is it not being utilized? I know for a fact that other federal agencies invite their local government in for training. Fort Leonard Wood is home of the MP Corps. Great opportunities for good law enforcement training, and I'm well aware of federal and civilian law enforcement and different. Now, I do know firsthand that we do have lots of different agencies and organizations coming and train. Maybe you could speak to why, or if we do or not.
From
training on
from Fort Leonard Wood.
leveraging Fort Leonard Wood's capabilities to in the furtherance of training of the deputies down at the sheriff's office.
Well, the biggest thing with Fort Leonard Wood, they do open doors for training, especially with the SRT, with getting some instructors to come out and train our PCERT team.
Right.
There's they also have the what's the daggone school for like the child abuse, the AVID program for child abuse, domestic violence.
Civilian police force too. A buddy of mine's training it, Mr. Smith.
Yep. And there's several schools on Fort Leonard Wood that they open their doors up for police departments, sit training, things like that. Fort Leonard Wood is a valuable asset to us, and it's just working with them to and I don't think it would. I don't know what schools on there would cost any money or not, but if there's a cost associated, that's just like anywhere else.
Yeah.
Budget it and get your deputies into the training.
All right, thank you, Mr. Thompson. It goes on. I feel like the bridge was burned at one point, and nobody ever took the time to rebuild it. Mr. Brashear, last question. If you become sheriff, what would be your first 90 days look like? I probably said that kind of gumbled. What would your first 90 days look like if you become sheriff or elected? Well,
the first thing is setting the standards for the sheriff's office, setting my priorities, setting my goals with the deputies and detectives in the sheriff's office, and as well as the community.
Mm-hmm.
Establishing that rapport with those and building that trust with other community leaders and other our surrounding counties that hey, I'm the newly elected sheriff, and here's my plan for what I want to do, and I need some help.
Right.
Because I'm not going in here thinking that I can do everything myself. I need help. I need help from everybody.
Right.
And I will take all the help I can get, because that's the only way we're going to fix some of the things that we need fixed.
Right.
It starts with the jail, for me, and a big part of that is getting those jailers, getting those detention officers trained the way they should be, so that we can hopefully everybody's trained. Because at the end of the day, at the end of all that, that jail was meant to house federal inmates for temporary holding. So with that, and we've talked about that several times, the money that comes with that, because that's the only way we're really going to help our budget.
Right.
Is to start to get that income with, housing those federal inmates, and that's going to be a vital piece to, hopefully any sheriff that's in there to get that jail up and running for federal inmates. But the other part of the 90 days is everybody in there. I have not said I'm going to fire anybody in that jail, or in that, sheriff's office. But to watch, look, learn how those deputies are acting and performing, and the leadership, how the sergeants, how the corporals, all that comes into play. And if they can't meet the standards that I set, if they can't meet the standards that are truly expected of any deputy sheriff, then I find a replacement.
Second one up. What's your plan to fix that, or is that on your agenda? I think you already answered that about the jail. Yeah, I think you covered that. Literally, personally.
Yeah. The problem is that jail is funded by tax-free bonds,
right?
And we can't make money on tax-free bonds in the jail. So the workaround, whether it's paying taxes up front or paying taxes quarterly, I don't know if that's the right answer or not. Just by reading what I've read about that, it sounds like it, but that's going to, the lawyers and the IRS and people way above me to give me the right answer, so that we can do what we need to do to start bringing in the federal inmates. And it's going to have to start off small. We can't just bring in 20, 30, 40 inmates, federal inmates. It's going to be a small number just to start, make sure we can handle that, make sure we can get it. And because like I said before, we not only house them, but we transport them.
Right.
We take them to Springfield. We take them to the federal courts all over the state, wherever they need to go. And that might be something that, with other sheriff's departments that can help us out with that as well. Is, they're going to Kansas City or St. Louis, and if I take them to Phelps or I take them to Canada, wherever they're, then they can, help us with the transport.
Sure.
I don't want to depend on that. We need to do that, but I'm just saying that could be and we obviously return the favor.
Foster a culture of accountability and transparency. What are your plans for fostering a culture of accountability and transparency within the sheriff's office? And how do they set you apart? We hit on transparency so many times. I think even last night with the two commissioners, it's transparency. What's going on down there? What's your plan?
If you don't follow the rules, the three rules I have are: don't do anything illegal, unethical, or immoral.
Right.
And don't lie to me about any of it. With that said, if it's none of those, and you've told me the truth, hey, here's what happened. I did this, and this. I thought it was right. We can work with that. But if illegal, unethical, or immoral, in my mind, you're a bad apple, and there's no need for remedial training. There's no need for you find a new profession.
Right.
Go to another agency to work or whatnot. But you got to have standards. You got to follow those standards. You got to have the rules in place and know that if they're broken, if they're broken, then you either get corrected by remedial training, counseling. There's got to be some type of accountability for that, because it turns into a free for all where you can get away with anything, and that's where we end up with things like Minneapolis. That's where we end up with somebody putting somebody in a legal hold or legal. We're not trained like that. We are trained as professionals in our academies. The training that we conduct is professional training. and you break those rules, you break those laws, and some you got to hold the line. And if you don't, then that just breeds it just breeds inefficiency, and it breeds, like I said, the bad apples that put a black stain on all of us as law enforcement professionals.
Mr. Polson, Justin, first time question. With your understanding of the sheriff's the sheriff's office budget, note sheriff's office, the sheriff's office budget over the past few years, including this year's budget, what areas have you chosen to address, and what areas you feel you can work with the commissioners to improve? And do you know the total operating budget of the Pulaski County Sheriff's Office?
The first question, the training and with that training, ammunition. We should have a surplus of ammunition, but ammunition is expensive. Right. I mean, it's crazy high. Hopefully, I can find somebody to help me out with that. But I'm just kidding. The training that we got to have that money for training. We got to be able to send people to training. We got to be able to send people to enhanced training, train the trainer type of training, because they can come back and train our folks with that. The other part of that for off of training is the ammunition, because we don't fire our weapons enough. We should be qualifying 2 times a year,
right?
If not, and then on top of that those qualifications, we should be able to try and find ways to supplement that weapons training with shoot, move, communicate type training. Taking our range, and I talked to a gentleman yesterday out and about, was a Cape Girardeau officer.
Right.
He's a Black Hawk pilot up here now. He gave like a great idea, and we to one degree we do that, but talking about setting up a program where every 6 months to help rotate out our operational ammo to change out with new ammo. And again, that's all money from the budget, because we got to have the ammunition to do it. But Doug's on patrol, and I'm out at the range. I got the range set up, and I called Doug down to the range, down to our outdoor range. You don't know what's going on, but I call you down there, and then I give you a quick briefing. Then I send you up to the next area, and your lights are on. You're on patrol. Your lights are on, and then they're going to give you the scenario, and you're going to react to the different shooting stations, and you're going to shoot, move, and communicate to each station. You're going to transition from your weapon from your handgun to your rifle, or your shotgun, whichever one.
That's bring back flashbacks.
Yeah,
state, field FDXs and separate stakes. And
it's not just all law enforcement agencies, I think, have a problem doing that type of training. But if I can implement something like that with that type of weapons training, because like I said, we don't shoot enough, but that gives them the ability, that gives them the knowledge that your heart rate's up. Because what people don't really, I hear like officers are bad shots. Well, we're bad shots because sometimes in that situation we're focused, but we're not focused on one person like that shooter is. We're focused on also what's around that shooter, what's past you. That lady pushing the baby behind you, or several innocent people that are behind you. So we just can't take an open shot without knowing our environment and knowing we got to make that shot.
Yeah.
You elevate that heart to see your capabilities to react in those type of situations. And yeah, they're stagnant targets, but we got targets with people holding a gun to somebody's head or a knife to somebody's throat, and
right.
But instead of just shooting at the regular silhouette, knowing, because look at daggone Trump. I mean, if Trump wouldn't have been had his head turned, I mean, a head,
it was literally
to the head versus a flesh wound to a ear. So we gotta the deputies, I feel, need to know their capabilities as far as when their heart rate's up and their surroundings when they're out there, so that way to give them the confidence that if nothing else fails, they have to take that shot,
right,
and put somebody down, and they can take that shot. They have that confidence and that ability to understand the situation at hand.
Mr. Polson, I'm going to defer that question. Maybe you can answer tomorrow night. We're running too much time. We're running over the schedule. I have to charge Stacy $100 a minute after an hour, so I don't think he likes that very much. We'll talk about some other questions tomorrow, but last question that I have. All things considered, campaign's wrapping up. Win, lose, or draw. What message would you like to convey to the voters about why you are the best choice for Pulaski County Sheriff compared to the other candidates?
Well, I've given a lot to this community, and from working the schools, from working the sheriff's office for 12 years, from working narcotics in this county, everything that I've learned about this county and everything I love about this county is really the love for this county and the people in this county are what really drove me to want to make a difference in that sheriff's office and build that sheriff's office up to what it really should be. Bringing people together and being it's one team. And I just got sick and tired of fighting for why we don't talk to each other, why we don't communicate, why we're not transparent, why can't we just put that information out to the people and I want to know. And
Sure.
I mean, I'm a law enforcement officer, and I find out stuff secondhand, all the time. When I was in the department all the time, I'm like, what? When did it?
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a bad culture right there.
I understand and can empathize with some of the information or the lack of thereof that's put out to people. If the people give this retired friggin' first sergeant a chance, I'm gonna I seriously believe that this county could use some flavor of a military retiree, and we've never had a military retiree combat veteran elected to a county office.
I did not know that.
Why I don't know. We have military members in office,
Right.
Kevin's in the National Guard, but and I was told when I first started running by Clarence Liberty, rest in peace. I mean,
Right.
he's no longer with us, but
Right.
he told me, he's like, hey, they don't vote for retirees. I was like, well, I want to change that perception. Another reason why I started so early, I started way earlier than anybody else.
I remember the notification. You had your announcement party at the Hampton, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Back in January of, I think, 23. So I wanted people to know me. I wanted people to be able to vet me. I wanted people to be able to know me and understand who Stacy Ball is. And getting out and meeting people and talking to people because I wasn't a real big talker for the longest. I mean, I'm more of a watcher, and a listener. I like to watch. I'm a people watcher.
Right.
But I've turned that all around. I just talking to everybody that I've talked to in this county, going door to door and talking to face to face with people, because people hit me up with questions all the time, and I'm like, hey, can we meet somewhere? I'd like to talk to you in person. I would rather look you in the eye. You lose a lot of context in writing on,
Right. Yeah.
and to be honest with you, with campaign manager, people, running campaigns and stuff like that, you don't know who's talking to you to begin with. Little place like Pulaski County, Missouri. I mean, we don't have. It's not like running a presidential campaign or a Senate campaign or so where you got a million people working for you. So that was my duty to get out there and put my boots on the ground and start meeting people and talking to folks and finding out what their issues and concerns. And I'm not tired. I've been over a year doing this, and I'm still charging along every day. I mean, I got areas that I go visit every day, people that I talk to every day. I may not have as many signs as others or whatever, but by the people talking to me,
You got signs.
I have a lot. And it's just, I mean, the love for, I could stay working at the school and just be comfortable. I mean, I don't have to be the sheriff. I chose to be the sheriff. I prayed about, at the end of the day, it's God's plan.
Right.
And as sure as I sit here, whoever the sheriff is, I will back the sheriff 100%.
I'm so
If
happy.
there's an independent running, I will back that sheriff 100% because that sheriff is a Republican.
Yeah.
I have no ill will against anyone, and anyone running. There's things I don't like about,
Sure.
and there's, well, apparently a lot of things people don't like about me, but that's fine. Either way, That's
the nature of the beast, though. You got to
It is.
admit, you open, and we've had this conversation, me and the household six, about me getting, one time I was going to run for alderman. I said, you're not opening yourself up.
Yeah.
And you don't know how well you're going to react to, like, 'cause, it's coming out.
I don't look over my shoulder. I mean, who Stacy Ball is now is who Stacy Ball was 10 years ago, and who I'm going to be as Sheriff Stacy Ball. I feel that I'm probably the most approachable person in this field. I mean, I have no problem talking to anybody, and I mean, Tony will tell you, I don't talk as much as him, but I talk.
We do have a guest in there. We will discuss because
sorry.
that's Tony Lazix is here. A friend I used to be a coworker, but he's here. He's taking notes. He's going to take over the operation for me. I think he thinks he is. So, but
It's been a great experience, man. And I have no ill will, no doubt, or no. I'm glad I did it. And if I don't win, this will be my only time running, because it's and if I win, then like I said, I'll be sheriff. My plan would be 16 years.
Right.
Or as long as I'm effective and the county votes me, I'm going to keep doing my job. And I think, with everything I've done in my career, I've never been a slacker. I'm boots on ground, and I'm 100% hard charging every day. Yeah. And I have plenty of people that can back me up on that. I mean, I don't quit.
Right.
And I think of, having a different taste of leadership, and having a different flavor of what I can bring to the table for the sheriff's office will make a big difference.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stacy, thank you for coming in the show. These 5 times, and you're welcome back anytime.
Yes, sir.
If you do win election, even if you don't, whatever we can do to help out, put me to work. I want to help out the county, just like I was telling Andy and Charles yesterday. Whatever we can do to help, we've got to build the community together, one step at a time.
Well, yes, sir. And this is an excellent platform too for if I'm sheriff or somebody else is sheriff. This is another tool to our disposal to use to get the information out to the folks. And I appreciate everything you've done for not only for the election and the candidates, but helping us get the information out.
Well, that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Transparency.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to transition here. You guys are going to go off the mic in about 3, 2, 1. And with that, I want to shout out once again to our sponsors. Thank you so much for listening in, everybody. Thank you so much for the questions. Now, be aware, tomorrow, the first ever in the history of Pulaski County that I know of, or I'm just making this up, is the roundtable discussion / debate between 3 of the 4 candidates, maybe 4. We'll see who shows up. And I believe it starts at 6 p.m. tomorrow. And a different venue, different format, but it's going to be exciting. We get the candidates can talk to each other. They're going to be cordial. They're professionals, and they know the name of the game. It's all about taking care of the county and doing what's best for the county. So with that, we're going to thank you, everybody. And if I can run my credits here, make sure my microphone's off before I do that too.